Hey friends, I'm Gaurav. And if you follow science, you probably know that in the world of science, nothing is considered absolutely true until we have solid scientific evidence for it. Scientists put in a lot of hard work into their discoveries, and to prove the results of their years of effort, they conduct various kinds of experiments. But did you know that in the famous history of science, there have also been many bizarre experiments that were considered unethical from the perspective of social civilization and humanity, yet scientists still carried them out? These are the bizarre experiments that you could call gruesome, and it didn't take the government long to put a stop to these ones. You might even call the scientists who conducted these experiments mad scientists, but you're sure to learn something new from their discoveries, and that's exactly the purpose of today's video. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. So first, let's talk about a shocking experiment from 1907 in which a scientist named Dr. Duncan McDougall tried to calculate the weight of the soul. It must feel quite strange just hearing it, right? Well, that's exactly how this experiment was, and to carry it out, he selected 6 patients who were close to death. Before they died, they were laid on a weighing scale and their weight was measured, so that after their death, the weight could be compared. As you all know, it is believed in religious texts that after death, the soul leaves the body. He wanted to measure the weight of this very soul. One by one, he conducted his experiment on all the patients. The first patient's weight decreased by 21 grams. The second patient's weight dropped immediately after death, but within a few seconds, it returned to what it was before. The other 2 patients also showed a decrease in weight, but a few minutes later, their weight increased to even more than before. One patient died while the equipment was still being set up, so his weight could not be measured. And finally, after weighing the last patient following his death, it was found that there was no change in his weight, but after just 1 minute, his weight decreased by approximately 28 grams. Because the difference in weight varied for each person in this experiment, it could not be proven that something like a soul exists. Otherwise, the difference in weight would have been the same every time. But that did not happen. And the scientific explanation that emerged was that the decrease in weight for everyone occurs due to changes in the body after death. For example, blood clotting and the final breath leaving the lung. That's why, in today's modern times, such experiments are considered unethical. After this, in 1963, a scientist named Stanley Milgram wanted to measure people's willingness to obey orders from their boss or higher authorities. He wanted to understand how Hitler's associates were able to cruelly torture people in concentration camps for years simply by following his orders. This experiment was a psychological experiment. Basically, in this experiment, 2 people were placed in 2 separate rooms. One was the teacher and the other was the learner. The room was set up in such a way that they could hear each other but not see each other. In the experiment, the teacher had to ask the learner some questions, and for every wrong answer, the learner would receive an electric shock. After the experiment, it was found that people obey authority figures mainly to avoid being treated cruelly themselves. This cruel behavior truly has an impact, and people, out of fear of authority, agree to do things they wouldn't otherwise do themselves. Because of the cruelty involved in this experiment, there was a lot of opposition, and people called for such experiments to be stopped. Experiments of this kind were declared unethical, and such experiments were never conducted again. But a little before this, during World War II, when Hitler's reign of terror was ongoing, many of the painful experiments conducted by Nazi scientist Josef Mengele came to light. During World War II, thousands of experiments were being conducted, all aimed at helping Hitler's army soldiers through medicines and treatments. And the leader of all these was Josef Mengele, who was also known as the Angel of Death. Whenever new prisoners were brought to Dr. Mengele, he would eagerly scan all of them, hoping that this time there would be a pair of twins. He was obsessed with twins. He would often stitch 2 twin children together, joining their skin, their blood vessels, and even their organs so that they could become Siamese twins. The kind of twins who are usually conjoined from birth, but these innocent children would often develop a disease called gangrene and die a very painful death. Joseph conducted many other experiments as well. For example, putting people in pressure chambers, killing them by freezing them in ice, performing castration, removing healthy organs from the body, changing people's genders, etc. Just hearing about all these experiments is enough to shock you, right? But all these experiments conducted by scientists are illegal in today's era of democracy. Committing such scientific crimes can result in life imprisonment or even the death penalty. The expulsion of gases produced by chemical reactions from the body, etc. After the results of this experiment reached the government put a stop to it because it violated human rights, and for this reason, conducting such experiments is illegal to this day. A similarly bizarre experiment took place in 1934, in which an attempt was made to bring a dead person back to life. This experiment was conducted in America by Dr. Robert E. Cornish. He believed that if blood circulation in a dead body could somehow be restarted, that body could be brought back to life, because when death occurs, it is the flow of blood that stops. For this experiment, he selected some deceased patients and injected a chemical called adrenaline into their bodies so that the blood would thin and blood flow could be quickly restored throughout the body. After that, he would lay the dead body on a large bed that looked like a seesaw and move it vigorously up and down so that the blood flow could start again. But none of the dead could be brought back to life. Then he tried this experiment on dogs, and to his surprise, out of the 5 dogs brought in for the experiment, 2 were revived, but 3 could not be saved. After achieving success in this experiment, he wanted to take it further, but the US government banned such experiments as it was considered unethical from a civilized perspective to conduct any experiments on dead humans. But just a few years later, in 1940, a similar experiment took place in Russia, where scientists tried to keep a dog's head alive. Just like the experiment conducted in America, in this experiment, a dog's head, that is, the part from the neck to the brain, was separated from its body, and to keep it alive, pure blood was supplied to its veins with the help of a machine called an autojector. When the blood flow was restarted, the dog began to show some movement, such as its ears twitching in response to sound, its eyelids blinking when exposed to bright light, and it licking its nose with its tongue. Such movements are called response to stimuli in science, and this was exactly that. You can find the real footage of this experiment by searching on YouTube, but it is quite gruesome. Such experiments were also banned as they were considered animal abuse and are a crime. But that's not all according to civilization. Life and death are laws of nature. Trying to bring someone back from the dead means tampering with the laws of nature.